This morning, we welcome once again Securities and Exchange Commission Chair Mary Jo White back to the committee. I wish to note at outset for the record, contrary to many, if not most, administration witnesses, she has been most accommodating with her schedule, and she is timely with the submission of her testimony. So, Madam Chair, you are especially welcome before this committee. We appreciate your cooperation in the congressional oversight process. This committee is indeed committed to conducting vigorous oversight of the SEC to make certain that it is accountable and fulfilling its mission of maintaining transparent and efficient capital markets, protecting investors, and promoting capital formation. By holding today's hearing, we hope to better understand the progress the Commission is making in fulfilling its statutory mission and have a better understanding of Chair White's relative priorities. Now, a number on this committee have maintained that the SEC has insufficient resources with which to carry out its mission. I will always have an open mind on the issue, but it is not an empty mind. The SEC's budget has grown substantially in recent years. In fact, the SEC's budget has increased by 80% in the last 10 years and by nearly 300% since the year 2000. I again note that when my Democratic colleagues were in the majority, even after the passage of the Dodd-Frank Act, they never called for the dramatic budget increases they call for now. Not many other agencies throughout the entirety of the federal government have seen such hefty budget increases during this same period of time, and I don't know many folks in Texas's 5th Congressional District that I have the honor of representing whose family budget has seen an 80% increase in the last 10 years. In addition, as we see the national debt clock regrettably continually turn at the pace that we have observed, this is something that must loom large over all of our budgetary decisions. I know that some have considered the placement of the clock to be ideological. I personally never knew that math was ideological. Many of us believe that the SEC has given short shrift historically to capital formation. The Bipartisan Jobs Act was an attempt to help remedy past SEC inaction on capital formation initiatives. Even President Obama, with whom I rarely agreed, called the law a game changer for entrepreneurs and capital formation. Regrettably, the SEC remains behind schedule in implementing the Jobs Act. It is important that the implementation of the Jobs Act go forward. Regrettably, we still live in an economy where 1 in 6 are on food stamps. We have the lowest labor force participation rate in a generation. 15% of our fellow countrymen at the poverty level and median family income having fallen every year in the Obama administration. Clearly, we have millions of our fellow countrymen unemployed, underemployed, who could benefit from the full implementation of the Jobs Act. During the same period when SEC budgets increased so dramatically, regrettably, there were numerous examples of the agency's financial mismanagement, squandered resources, and mission failure. I hasten to add, almost all of these examples predate Chair White's tenure, but it does underscore that in Washington, it is not always how much money you spend that counts, but how you spend the money. Even though the SEC, I believe, had ample resources and ample authority leading up to the 2008 crisis, clearly somebody was asleep at the switch. Whether it was the failure to properly administer the now-defunct Consolidated Supervised Entities Program, regrettably not doing anything about the credit rating agency oligopoly and the role that played in the crisis, or the failure to uncover the Madoff and Sanford Ponzi schemes, notwithstanding the warnings received from multiple market professionals. In addition, regrettably, and notably for an agency that is entrusted with policing financial markets and enforcing accounting standards, the SEC has repeatedly failed audits of its own financial statements and internal controls conducted by the GAO, which begs the question about how asking for more funding will necessarily prevent future fumbles. How the SEC spends its budget is a legitimate concern, and so is how the SEC spends its time. According to one report, the SEC has finalized less than half of its required rulemakings under Dodd-Frank, nearly 4 years after the law was enacted. We continue to need to hold Washington accountable. We need to ensure that Washington uses resources wisely and efficiently. And we need to ensure that we repeal any unnecessary, ill-conceived Washington regulations that hurt our economy and kill jobs. I look forward to listening to Chair White's testimony and continuing to hear about some of the pressing issues of the day concerning the SIFI designations of non-bank entities through FSOC, the fiduciary duty versus the suitability standards of broker-dealers, issues relating to market structure, and issues regarding whether the presence of a robust cost-benefit analysis that ultimately will benefit so many of our Americans who remain unemployed and underemployed.